So today we're sprucing up the battery cables in the car. I didn't like how long this OEM wire was, so I just cut it down to the length that I want. I'm gonna cut back the insulation and I'll install one of these new battery lugs and then put it back on the car. And then these are battery cables for the main fuse panel. So I cut the end off of this guy and I'm going to reuse the end, just slipped over a little bit of heat shrink and then cut back the insulation how long I wanted it. And now I'm gonna take this old jumper that I made. It's really not great. The insulation on it was not long enough. So I'm gonna carefully remove this OEM style connector. Just squeeze it out. And then those come right out. And then put these in as far as they will go. All right, so now I got the connector on to my little jumper wire here, and I'm just going to, and a lot of people say, no, 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 don't do this.
Don't do drugs. If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.
I'm taking a hammer to it. Came a little loose. Let's take this guy to it first. Well, that's what you get with concrete. But I think we got this connection pretty good. Yeah. All right, so we got that pretty much as good as it can be. Now we're gonna heat shrink it. So let's bust out the lighter and we'll get this done. Right, so I just came inside so I could do this so I'm not in the wind. But these things don't really need too much heat. You just wanna do it evenly. I usually start on the outside edges where the fold is. That way it doesn't wrinkle there as much. And you know, I probably should have put dielectric grease inside of here. But we'll put a little bit on the terminals before we final wire everything. So the main battery cable is actually going to have one of these new style lugs, and you just want to make sure when you get one of these that you're using the right one, because some of these are too big for the wire that you're using. You don't want to waste them. So you also want to double check that this will fit onto the relay, and I'm going to go do that right now. All right, so now that we confirmed this will fit onto our terminal, we're just going to measure using the lug exactly where we want to cut. So I just made a little mark on the end, and then I'm gonna roll it on the table. Roll it on the table with an X-Acto, being sure not to push down too hard so you don't get into the actual wires. All right, make sure you have a nice cut all the way around. And then I like to just make one cut going up, and that'll peel right off. There we go. So now that we have that, we're just going to take the lug, put it right over, and okay, so we got a little bit carried away with how much we took off. So that's okay, we're just gonna trim back the insulation a little bit, and you can use whatever pair of pliers works for you. And just make sure that you get all of them. If this is for 16 to, or 22 to 16, 22 to 10 gauge, sorry. So it's not rated to cut this. The blade is not large enough, but you can do it in 2 cuts, just like that. So now we have our insulation stripped back. We're just gonna put the lug on. All right, we cut just enough off, and then I just use these guys and slam it down. And then you can also put this into a vise. Put it right in the center. And you can crimp it down like this. And there you go. Gives it a little bit of a bad look, but nobody's gonna be seeing that anyways, so just make sure you got a good connection. We got one. You could also, if you wanted to, punch a hole, not punch a hole through, but punch a hole onto it, you know, make a divot like what you would with one of these, but this will be just fine. All right, so now that we got the lug crimped onto our battery cable, we're just gonna take a little bit more of this heat shrink, put it right on top, just before the flat part where we want our terminal to contact. We don't want the insulation or the heat shrink to actually be, you know, pressed into your terminal, because then you can end up having a faulty connection. You know, in most cases you won't, but you just want to be safe, and this looks good anyways. So gonna head back inside and get this taped up or shrunk up. Right, so now we got the heat shrink onto the end of our old battery cable with the new lug, and we are also gonna deal with this female connector. Right, so we threw that little bit of heat shrink on, and now it's nice and protected, and we're still able to access it with a male connect if we want to. So now that we have our battery cable all made up, I think it looks way better now that it's shorter. And we also have our other 4-gauge cables running through, just a temporary mount that I made from wood and zip ties, not a big deal, you know, just some high engineering type stuff. This guy has plenty of protection and power running to our fuse panel, so we will be able to wire all of the accessories, all the trick switches and hydraulics that we're going to put in this car. I'm not going to do any of that, but we're ready to wire everything else. But the first thing that we need to do is our brakes. And I know you're like, well, let's just get to the wiring. Let's just go. We can't. We got to do the brakes first. Because if we don't have brakes, then we're not going to have brake lights. And we got to have the hookup on the actual brake pedal. Okay, so you can see there's a little shaft that I have the cotter pin on. This little shaft here. That comes off of your brake pedal. So your brake pedal first, and then your actual master cylinder goes on over that, and then this guy hooks on in between. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation to get this all together, but I hope that made sense. If it didn't, let me know, and I'll make a whole video where I just disconnect this and then reconnect it. So, but we have to hook this up. We might as well just bleed the cylinders while we're here. All right, so we're reinstalling the master cylinder. We're gonna hook up the brake pedal, bleed everything. Now that we got that set up, before we can bleed anything, we have to replace one of the wheel cylinders so that we don't have a leak in our brake system. So this guy goes on first, then this guy, then that guy. And then this guy goes on before everything. Just like that. Let's just take this stuff out. Is that hooked up against that? Oh, that cable is close to snapping. We might want to replace that. So we took the brake line off. Now we're just gonna get the actual brake cylinder cracked loose. Do the other one. Get them both. Alright, so now this should be loose. Just have to... Oh, might have one more bolt back here. Nope. Just needed to push it out. Alright, there we go. Old, dusty, cracked wheel cylinder out. Now I'm gonna clean up my hands, clean this up a little bit, and put the new one on from Ray Bestos. So we got our new brake cylinder here. Now we're just gonna shimmy it into there, push the shoes apart and get them into there, and then use the bolts, your old OEM bolts. Okay, so I just spread these shoes apart so I could get this in here easier. I'm just gonna put that into place, and we'll get our bolts started on the back side. All right, so we got one. Let's get the other. Got the new one in finger tight. Now we're gonna make sure we snug those down. You just want to keep them nice and even. Make sure your brake shoes aren't rubbing into it at any point, so you're not, you know, breaking your new brake cylinder. And then we just give it one good burp. That's the level you want, one good burp. All right, so now we should be able to just set these back into place. They need a little manipulating down at the bottom side. There we go. So now we just need to put all the old peripheral stuff back on. I'm gonna do the Uncle Tony trick here, see if this works. Put the spring for the brake shoe in, and then use
leverage somehow.
The leverage instead of a crazy tool.
Right.
Hey!
Beautiful.
Easy peasy. Thanks, Uncle Tony. Appreciate you. Do the other one in the same way. Who needs that crazy looking tool?
Right.
Although I do have one. Alright, well, that's all back together. We just got to do the brake line. I gotta put the Gotta put the thing on the thing with the thing. Can't forget the thing. Don't forget the emergency brake. So I didn't get any footage of it, but I eventually got that e-brake line back into place on the drum. I just had to use some seriously big pliers and pull it into place. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but that's what I had to do. So now we can get our master cylinder all filled up and bleed the entire brake system by ourselves. So while you're working on these, especially doing it yourself, you want to make sure you have your fluids topped off, your brake fluid topped off, so you're not introducing any bubbles into the system. Make sure you wipe off anything that brake fluid gets on, because that will eat away at any plastics. Alright, so it's the next day and my audio from yesterday was terrible, so I just wanted to interject here and explain to you how this works before you see it working. So you get a coat hanger, poke it through there so you can hook it up wherever you need to hook it up, and then this is your bleeder hose you'll put right onto your bleeder valve, and you want to make sure the hose goes over the valve, so you're not bleeding into your brakes like this. You're gonna bleed like that, so that air can get trapped at the top of this hose, because if you do it this way, the air will go back up into your valve, whatever little air gets trapped in this hose. So make sure you put it in like this, or just that it goes over your valve. And then this bottle, because it has fluid in it, when you push air into here and it gets trapped into this bottle, the only thing that'll come up into this hose is the fluid that you put in here. So what I'm gonna do is, I have my master cylinder all filled up. I'm gonna go around to each one. I'm just gonna show you the front one, but I'm gonna go around to each one and bleed it just one pump. And then as I bleed this front brake, getting all the old fluid out, it'll fill this up. And then eventually, as I'm filling this up and I push the brakes, you'll see less and less bubbles inside here. And when you see no bubbles, that's how you know the system has been bled. So let's get into it. All right, so we got this all hooked up. Now I'm just gonna set you in here and let you watch as I bleed the brakes. So I'm just checking to make sure that this is getting clear. And once it starts getting clearer as it comes out, then you know that the line is free of old fluid.
12 seconds later.
So right now it's still draining right there with kind of brownish fluid.
1 hour later.
That's looking pretty good. Yeah, much clearer.
1 eternity later.
Always clean the back of your brakes just to make sure if there ever is a leak again, you can find where it is. All right, so I bled the brakes and I did the same for all the other ones, and then I put the car back on the ground. Now we can get into the interior. Right, so the first thing we have to do when ripping out the interior, pretty much of any car, is take the seats out. Once we take the seats out, we can take the trim out, and then we can take all this shag carpeting out. Okay, so now that I have all of the trim bolts off, I'm just gonna roll this back so we can see a little bit of what's going on. Finding more and more, don't know what that is, but finding more and more nuts from squirrels. At least it's not rusty in here. All right, we're gonna take this trim off and then keep going. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh my God, there's a mouse in here. I just pulled the side quarter panel out or whatever and it just came running out. That's the little guy eating my wires. All right, that just pulls right out. And then, oh, the seat belt. Gotta take the seat belt out somehow. The seat belt just pinches onto the backside here. I'll show you. The seat belt just sort of snaps into place. You gotta push these down while you push it out. So I'm gonna do that. Just wanted to show you guys what it looked like. And just squeeze it right. Kind of have to shimmy it. Oh. And this is where that mouse is living. Under here. There's his little nest. He's back there somewhere. But that's why we're pulling all this out. Alright, we're just gonna pull this out from the front. All the way out there now. Oh yeah, that's your fuel gauge wire there. So we're just gonna cut them right here and then get rid of all this. We'll end up reusing these, just putting connectors on there and then reusing them. Okay, so I'm just gonna take the two wires from my fuel gauge and cut them nice and high so we have enough space to put female connectors or male connectors on here and then run that to our new fuel gauge. And then the rest of the wires will just come right out. All right, so we did a lot of work on this thing today. We got the upgraded wires in, we did the brakes, and we pretty much pulled the entire interior out. The carpet is just about ready to come out. I just have to get behind the center console and pull some brackets out, but I'm gonna take a break for now. That mouse really freaked me out, and I have some plans this upcoming weekend, so I'm gonna take a break, edit the rest of this video, and then I'll see you guys next week where we continue wiring the brake lights. We'll do the fuel pump, the brake lights, the tail lights, and then hopefully the front lights, and get this thing on the road.